Just because it's freezing outside doesn't mean I'm not concerned about the weeds that'll be coming in the spring. And thanks to the Home Depot Seeds program, I won't have to because I have an Echo DSRM-2100, a 16-inch cordless string trimmer. That's right, cordless. Inside the box, we find a 56-volt, 2.5 amp battery with an included charger, so we'll get that plugged up right in and get that charging. The charger comes with 2 LED indicator lights, one that's red. If it's blinking, there's something wrong with the battery. If it's steady, then the battery's probably too hot or too cold. A flashing green light means it's charging, and a steady green light that it's fully charged. What else is in here? Looks like a handle. The lower portion of the trim head, which looks like it connects to the upper portion, which is where the motor is housed and where the battery will connect to. Manual and another manual. One side of the box, there's minimal assembly. You have the trimmer head, which is already attached to the lower shaft. You come down here, there's an umbilical that connects it to the upper shaft, but this coupler needs to be mated. They do give you a tool, and if you don't see this in the box, search around. It's probably somewhere in there. I thought it was missing. It is the equivalent of a T27, so I'm just going to use a T27 because it's just a little easier to work with. So you're going to have to loosen, make sure the trim head is facing down. And then when you come over to the head, that you can read the label. So that's the correct orientation for this. Otherwise, one part will be upside down. Anyway, so on the lower shaft, there's an opening. We loosen this screw, and we loosen this screw, and then the lower shaft should go into the upper shaft, and it should go all the way in, and you should be able to lock it down with your included tool, which again is a T27. So in order to mate the lower shaft to the coupler, which is attached to the upper shaft, there's a screw that I just took off of here so that I can see when this opening goes into that hole. So if you look above the hole, you'll see, hopefully you can see there's metal there, and there's the opening. So now I'm going to put my screw in there. The handle has 2 pieces. There's this bottom piece that comes off so that you can put it on the shaft. There's a marking on the shaft. So we're going to start there. That's the suggested place, and then you'll adjust to whatever works for your body. In order to separate the bottom half, there are 2 screws. The handle faces with the screws going towards the motor in that direction. Not this way, but this way. So let's remove the screws. Place one under the shaft, one above the shaft, and tighten them. And again, this is going to be a kind of thing that you set up because maybe you like grabbing off to the side, the center. So you can just play with that, whether it's a little forward, a little further back, or if it's angled, on how you like holding this particular tool. And once you find that position, just secure it in place. With the handle secured, we're going to go down to the trimmer head. And here's the cutting blade for the trimmer. We're going to take the tape off. Here's the actual filament. And the way this winds in is you actually feed the filament through about 20 feet, and then you just tighten it. So you see, if I turn the handle, you can see, I'm going to pull this out a little bit. Watch this masking tape here. As I turn the handle, it pulls it in. So basically, you can just wind new line into this without having to disassemble the unit, which is kind of nice. So after removing all the masking tape off the trimmer head, we come over to the motor side. We still haven't placed the battery in here yet. The controls, there's a safety lever that has to be pressed down before you can engage the trigger. And unlike most trimmers that I've ever worked with, this one has a speed setting. There's a picture of a little rabbit, so that's for running fast. And on the other side, there's a picture of a turtle or a tortoise for slow operation. That'll extend the runtime of the battery because you're running at a slower speed. I think most people will probably end up using here because we always like having lots of power when we're trimming. But again, in order to operate the tool, you have to activate this switch before the trigger will actually engage power to the motor. Otherwise, it's just locked. So now that we know how to do that, we can put in the battery and we can see how much noise this thing makes. Battery is 2.5 amps. It's fully charged. If we push the button here, we can see that it's at 100%. It slides on a guide, locks in, battery's engaged. So with the battery in place, I engage the safety switch. We have it set for fast or rabbit mode, and we press the trigger. And now we're going to switch it over to turtle mode. With the battery on board, while it's still a little bit front heavy, you can see that just if I let it balance out on its own, it's not bad. Obviously with the battery off, it's totally front heavy. But maybe the battery could be a little heavier. And this is the smaller size. I think there might be a bigger size. This is 2.5 amps. Which supposedly will get you about close to an hour of runtime. It feels like you can maneuver well with it, so we'll go outside and play with this and see what we can do with it. How does the Echo compare to a corded trimmer? Well, this Ryobi is about the same length. Big difference is there's a lot more weight over on the motor den than there is on the cordless unit. Handles are slightly different. There's just a single speed on this. You get 2 choices of speed on this unit. Handles are adjustable. They both have a coupler. This coupler has a push pin, so you just slide it into position as opposed to what we had to do to make that connection. So this one is designed to take different options on the lower shaft. You can take this trimmer out and attach something else to it. That's the reason why this one's a lot more flexible, whereas this one's designed to stay mated once you make the connection. An advantage that the Echo has is the rear base is nice and wide, so you can actually sit the unit down without having it fall over. The corded unit has a much smaller base, so most of the time you end up putting it on its side. Finally, the big disadvantage to a corded unit is the cord, which can get tangled and caught up because it has to stretch all the way back to a power source. while the Echo gets rid of the power cord, you are limited to the run time of the battery. With plenty of snow, there is very little I could cut, so we found this dead plant. We're going to start off with the Ryobi just to show you the kind of performance you can get out of a corded unit. As you hear, it's loud, but it's powerful. Now let's go over to the cordless unit. We're going to start off in the rabbit mode, which is fast. As you see, it didn't have any difficulty removing plant, stem, and even part of the plastic on the container. So just as good as the Ryobi, I say, at tackling your weed needs. It's sort of, both units have their advantages and cons. And if you can do it, I'd swing both, because the Ryobi is great for a really thick brush and stuff that I can get to with the power cord, whereas the cordless unit lets me get further out into the woods because we're on a fairly large piece of property. So for me, they're both nice essential tools for our needs. Obviously, most people can get away with just this because you're not mowing alone. You're just trimming and getting rid of weeds, and an hour's runtime is plenty for that. If you found this video interesting or useful, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, join the subscription team, and as always, thank you ever so much for watching.